Work being done, as well as providing, enough resources and examples and, tools developed by other groups, other multi-stakeholder groups and research groups that can help with the implementation of the national assessments at country level. So we'll be happy to share the guidance and resources developed with this group. And finally, just to say that at the Internet Governance Forum, again, I mentioned that in my opening, in 2020, we formed the IGF Dynamic Coalition on ROAM-X. And, so we bring together, stakeholder groups from government, from international government, organizations, civil society, academia, private sector, the technical community, media, and many multi-stakeholder organizations together. And all of them offer their peer reviews, their support, their experiences, and so on. And that helps form a really strong and active network that can contribute to developing, internet universality as national assessments and to their implementation. So let me just finish by thanking you all and indicating to you that Chang Hong Hu, one of my staff members, and a good friend, she is the driving force behind the ROAM-X and focal point for us. So her email is on the screen, being shared with you. And here are some email and addresses, web page addresses of some key useful resources that all can have access to. UNESCO Internet Universality Indicators documents, the IGF Dynamic Coalition web page, and an email for any queries that you may wish to make or any questions you may wish to ask, internet.indicators@unesco.org. So I thank you for your attention and, open now the floor to our other, presenters, hoping that many of them were able to join. Kosi, and so should I hand over to you now, please?
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yes, hello?
Okay, thank you very much for your intervention. We will give floor to African ICT Foundation chairperson now and to make his open remark. Chairman, you have a floor. Do you hear me? Hello?
Maybe ask him to unmute his mic. Are you talking to Tony or Kosi?
Yes, I'm talking to Tony. But if he's not available now, that's a problem. Before he come again, we will move to our panelists. I don't know if Mr. Michel is online now. We will have for the first time in 4 panelists, Mr. Michel Elvis from UNESCO in Dakar, is advisor for communication and information. We will have also Adam from UNESCO in Accra, which is program assistant. We will have also Professor Alain Kiendu from Université Bordeaux-Montaigne, which lead the statement for Benin and Niger. We will have also Nokni, program specialist from UNESCO in Yaoundé. I don't know if all of them are online now. I have some issue to request all the information and see who are online or not. Can we start by Elvis if he's online? He will ask, will share with us something concerning the WAIGF indicator university research. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, Mr.
Yeah.
Michel, you have a floor.
Yes, and we have to, just apologizing again for the changes in the agenda, with speeches and presentations coming before, the speech of our partners and many of our presenters, simply to, to enable and facilitate while others were connecting as well. So thank you very much, and bear with us, be patient on the changes on the agenda that we were putting in place flexibly in order to accommodate the issues that we had with connectivity. Thank you very much for that. And please carry on.
Hello. Do you move? President Tony, do you online now? Are you online? Okay, if he's not online, you can move to Michel, Mr. Michel. Mr. Michel, do you have do you online? Are you available? My internet are not working. Are you understand me when I speak?
Oui, on vous entend très bien. Mais peut-être il vaut mieux parler en français parce qu'ils sont tous francophones. Peut-être ils vous entendent mal.
Oui, bonjour à tous. Vous allez tous bien? Est-ce qu'on peut commencer avec M. Michel du bureau?
Good morning,
Avec
everyone.
M. Michel
I hope
du
you're all
bureau.
doing great. Can we start with Mr. Michel?
Du bureau de Dakar à l'UNESCO. Est-ce qu'il est en ligne? Est-ce qu'il peut commencer? De Dakar à l'UNESCO. Ok. S'il n'est pas disponible, on va peut-être aller vers Adam. Est-ce que Adam est disponible? Adam from UNESCO in Ghana. Are you online?
C'est Fosiatou Adams et je ne la vois pas. Mais il y a Simon Peter Kafui Aheto qui est là, de l'UNESCO Ghana, qui a été impliqué.
Ok, c'est vrai qu'avec Simon, on voulait aborder d'autres questionnements, mais on va peut-être aller avec le premier lot de questionnements, avec le professeur Kiendou d'abord. Professeur Kiendou, est-ce que vous pourriez partager avec nous comment la recherche avec les indicateurs de l'universalité de l'Internet ont pu améliorer la compréhension de l'environnement numérique dans les pays où vous avez eu la chance de mettre en place le rapport pays, notamment au Bénin et au Niger? Comment est-ce que ces mécanismes-là ont permis de favoriser la collaboration entre les parties prenantes? Et quels sont les défis que vous souhaiterez partager avec nous sur la compréhension et la prise en main de cette méthodologie spécifique de WAIGF? Merci, professeur, si vous êtes en ligne. Allez-y.
Bonjour Kossi. J'espère que vous m'entendez bien.
On vous entend parfaitement, professeur.
D'accord, ok. Ben déjà, je remercie Kossi et toute l'équipe d'organisation d'avoir organisé cet événement sur cette question importante qui est l'universalité d'Internet, hein, dont tout le monde connaît les bénéfices, même si ça mérite d'être discuté encore. Je pense qu'il faut déjà savoir que une évaluation, ou en tout cas l'évaluation de façon générale, permet d'avoir des indicateurs, et ces indicateurs nous amènent à nous situer par rapport aux autres pays, mais aussi, et c'est le plus important, par rapport à nous-mêmes, voir d'où est-ce que nous venons, où est-ce que nous partons et à quel niveau nous sommes. Et ça permet de voir les avancées qui ont été réalisées, les atouts sur lesquels on peut s'appuyer et les freins qu'il faut lever. Donc, c'est une réflexion qui est partagée dans un pays donné et qui fait que les gens, ensemble, regardent ensemble le chemin qu'ils ont parcouru et prennent un certain nombre de décisions. Ce qui permet d'améliorer, bien entendu, la compréhension de l'environnement numérique. Ça permet d'améliorer la compréhension de l'environnement numérique parce que la structure des indicateurs même permet d'aborder la question dans toute sa complexité. Donc, comme on peut le constater, hein, les indicateurs sont nombreux et on y traite des questions juridiques, des questions sociales, des questions économiques, des questions politiques, des questions culturelles. Donc, ça couvre tous les domaines. Tous les domaines sont en tout cas concernés. Pour le cas du Bénin, sur lequel j'ai travaillé, on s'est rendu très vite compte qu'il pourrait y avoir un écart important entre les chiffres qu'on peut obtenir dans différentes structures, les mesures statistiques et le ressenti réel des populations.
Alain,
oui.
Une minute s'il vous plaît. Pour tout ce qui nécessite l'interprétation, c'est un button at the bottom, so interpretation, and you click and choose the language in which you would like to have the language, the presentation or the translation done. Okay? Somebody can say that in French for me, please?
Oui,
So that people know how
oui.
to assess the interpretation. Thank you.
Okay. Merci à tous. Pour tout ce qui concerne l'interprétation, priez aller sur le lien interprétation et cliquez sur la langue de préférence que vous souhaitez utiliser. Cliquez sur le lien interprétation. Par exemple, pour le français, cliquez sur français. Pour l'anglais, cliquez sur anglais. Merci.
Merci, Alan. Please proceed.
OK, merci. Donc, je disais que la façon dont les indicateurs sont structurés permet d'aborder la question dans toute sa complexité, puisque les questions qui sont posées sont nombreuses et permettent de cerner tous les domaines. Et je disais également que pour le cas du Bénin, on s'est rendu compte qu'il y a généralement un écart entre les chiffres, les statistiques qu'on peut trouver et la perception ou le ressenti des populations, d'où la nécessité de mettre en place des moments de discussion pour mieux cerner ce qui se passe réellement et ne pas se fier uniquement aux statistiques. Dans l'organisation de cette évaluation, on est obligé de mettre en place un comité consultatif. Et ce comité consultatif multipartite est vraiment un véritable lieu d'échange, un véritable lieu de débat. C'est une sorte, en fait, de groupe qui a permis au niveau du Bénin de faire émerger beaucoup d'éléments significatifs, de discuter, d'approfondir le sujet et donc d'améliorer la compréhension de l'environnement numérique. Et il y a aussi l'élaboration des recommandations qui a été un moment donc intéressant parce qu'il a fallu avant tout faire un certain nombre de constats et avoir un consensus sur ces constats en question avant d'élaborer ensemble des recommandations. Donc là aussi, ça mène à réfléchir sur l'environnement, sur l'écosystème numérique. Mais ce qui me semble le plus important, c'est surtout de partager les résultats avec le grand public. Donc, toujours pour le cas du Bénin, cela s'est fait grâce aux différentes journées que nous avons organisées, notamment la journée de lancement et la journée de validation de l'étude. Ces deux journées ont mobilisé beaucoup de participants. Je pense qu'on était à plus de 300 participants par journée. Et on s'est appuyé aussi sur une stratégie de communication qui a été bien pensée, avec une couverture de l'étude tout au long du processus. Donc, on a eu à organiser des conférences de presse, des interviews qui ont été diffusées même dans les médias sociaux en ligne. Et il y a aussi la couverture médiatique qui a accompagné les différentes journées qu'on a organisées. Donc, les retombées presse ont été nombreuses, ce qui fait que cette compréhension de l'environnement numérique ne s'arrête pas uniquement auprès des experts du numérique, des acteurs du numérique, mais c'est une compréhension qui est partagée par l'ensemble de la population. Il y avait une deuxième question, Kossi, tu peux me la rappeler?
Oui, alors. Oui, quels sont les défis spécifiques que vous pensez mettre en exergue pour que les autres pays qui voudraient faire la même expérience puissent en tenir compte?
Oui, donc je pense que les défis sont nombreux parce que c'est un exercice assez délicat. Il y a beaucoup d'aléas, il faut tenir compte du contexte, mais ce que j'aimerais partager ici, c'est surtout la nécessité de prendre en compte l'agenda politique du pays dans l'élaboration du chronogramme. Donc, il peut parfois y avoir une adéquation entre notre propre agenda et l'agenda, surtout l'agenda politique du pays. Donc, faire attention aux périodes électorales, faire attention au remaniement ministériel. Voilà, ça, généralement, quand il y a un remaniement ministériel, on est obligé de reprendre les discussions avec le nouveau ministre, puisque le ministère doit forcément être impliqué dans ce processus-là. Le deuxième défi, c'est le défi de la sensibilisation que j'ai évoqué tout à l'heure. Donc, pour sensibiliser le public le plus large, il faut s'appuyer sur les médias, il faut s'appuyer également sur l'organisation d'un certain nombre d'événements, comme je viens de l'évoquer, mais aussi se dire aussi que il y a beaucoup d'études qui sont réalisées dans les pays et ces études finissent souvent, comme on le dit, dans les tiroirs. Donc, pour éviter cela, il faut mettre en place un comité de suivi. Et ce comité de suivi doit pouvoir se réunir de façon, je dirais, pas régulière, mais ne pas déposer le rapport comme ça et laisser les choses telles quelles. Penser à peut-être se réunir 2 ans après pour pouvoir faire le point, voir quelles sont les recommandations qui ont été réalisées et quelles sont les recommandations qui ne l'ont pas été, de façon à comprendre pourquoi certaines recommandations n'ont pas pu être prises en compte. Je pense que ça, c'est quelque chose de très important et c'est peut-être même la chose la plus importante.
Merci beaucoup,
voilà
professeur.
en gros ce que je peux dire sur ces deux questions-là.
Merci beaucoup, professeur. Comme nous avions le défi du temps qui n'est pas à notre faveur, nous en avons perdu suffisamment. On va aller directement à M. Simon Pierre, s'il est en ligne, qu'il parle avec, qu'il nous partage un peu les avantages pour les pays à aller vers ce mécanisme et quelles sont les actions à entreprendre pour y parvenir. Allô, monsieur Simon Pierre, je vous ai vu en ligne tout à l'heure si vous êtes là. Quels sont les avantages pour les pays à faire cette évaluation et quel est le mécanisme consensuel que cette évaluation permet de dégager dans le cadre de l'utilisation du numérique pour le développement? Please, Simon Pierre, are you online?
Simon Peter. Kafui?
Hello. Yes.
Can you share with us the advantage to make this
Yes,
statement?
my screen is disabled, but I can speak without sharing any screen as well.
Okay,
So
we have a challenge of time. If you can.
Yeah, so for us in Ghana, we just want to go straight to the questions that were posed in the itinerary. So how can the ROM Internet Universality Indicators Research Project improve understanding of Ghana's digital environment? So for us, we feel it is an opportunity for us to reflect on Ghana's digital agenda. And there are 6 areas that we are looking at under this particular question. And then in terms of awareness, it's helping to strengthen, it will help to strengthen the digital environment, an opportunity to assess the state of digital environment in Ghana. And then one other ways that we can also look at is about the dissemination. And under dissemination, we are looking at conferences, workshops like this, policy briefs, and even creating a kind of IUI ambassadors. Then the strategy and a way to address the challenges associated with our digital environment. IUI can be positioned to help. And then the need to also create monitoring and evaluation mechanisms.
Please, Simon.
So,
please,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we have a challenge of time. Can you tell us in 1 minute how could more countries initiate that statement?
How can what?
More countries in West African region initiate the ROM-X indicator statement.
Okay, so I feel capacity building is the key thing, and we've always maintained that capacity building is the way to go. Advocacy is also another way. So for instance, with this workshop, we expect that the invitation goes widely, and then it will help other countries that want to also join. And then for those of us who are already in it, we have a way to also showcase whatever we've done in terms of our reports. And then further to this is more research. We could link IUI to research institutions, universities, to also aspects of the research. Yes, so I think this is what we have to say for now.
Okay, thank you. I'm very sorry for the time we don't have again. I go straight to Dr. Dorothy to give us their global overview on this process.
Thank you. I had not expected to speak at this point, but it's really a pleasure for me to join all of you at the West African IGF once again. My name is Dorothy Gordon, and I am the chair of UNESCO's Information for All program. And what is the Information for All program about? It is about making sure that everyone has the opportunity to be an equal participant in the changes that we are seeing in the world today that come from going digital. So we talk about inclusive and equitable knowledge societies. And this is why for IFAP, the Rome indicators are so important. First, they are rights-based. All of us have equal rights. They are open, so all of us are able to appreciate its openness, make use of it, and access. All of us are able to access, and it's multi-stakeholder in that it allows us to have voice. What do we see in our region today? We see that we have a very different experience of the digital world, depending on whether we are Anglophone, whether we are Francophone, whether we live in the city, whether we live in a rural area. There are so many different worlds within our relatively small sub-region in terms of how we are experiencing digital. So how can we make our environment more inclusive and equitable? It is by understanding what is happening right now. And this is why it's so important that we have more countries adopting and implementing the IUIs to understand better what is happening in their countries and to give the population more opportunity to express the differences that they're seeing in terms of inclusivity and equity. And I will just close by saying that one of my friends told me that when we are going for elections, and I know there are many elections coming up within the sub-region, we don't really discuss often the digital agenda. It is not high in the minds of the population, even though so much of their lives today is dependent on it. And I will just mention, for example, the price of mobile communications or the cost of using mobile money. All of these things affect our lives, or even the software that is being bought by the Ministry of Health to implement various citizen access opportunities. It affects our lives, and yet people do not have the confidence yet to be discussing these openly in the public domain, and it very often rests with the experts.
So you say you have collected the money then, I'm sure that's making.
It's a change.
Maybe you should switch off your mic, the person talking about money. Anyway, so money is a very important point.
Yeah.
We spend lots of money on digital. We need to understand these things better. This is my simple message, that the IUIs, the Internet Universality Indicators, and this whole process of preparing the country-level Rome reports really gives us an opportunity to understand better what is happening in our environments, our policymakers, and engage our populations. I am looking forward to a situation where every single country within the West African sub-region would have carried out this exercise. And that can inform our leaders at the level of ECOWAS, where we are supposed to be harmonizing our approaches for the sub-region, and then to allow us to participate more formally on the global stage. I just want to highlight one important point for all of those listening. Artificial intelligence is really driving the changes that are taking place in our digital environment today. If we think of capacity, We have to think of the capacity to implement those solutions as well as develop those solutions. I hope through the IUIs, we'll understand better how to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
I'm recognizing that Tony is now ready to speak. I can see him on the screen. It's such a pleasure to see you, sir. And we are looking forward to your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Okay, Chairman, I'm sorry we don't have more time, but we let you closing remark to make.
Well, thank you very much, Kosi. I want to appreciate the organizers for the opportunity for African ICT Foundation to lend our voice to the very, very important discussion about WAIGF with regards to the level of implementation across nation states. Well, I'm sorry that the connection couldn't get me on time, but I just want to say that there are a few things that we need to do, in the light of the limited time I have. I think the number of countries that have so far adopted this protocol is abysmal, just about 40 countries. And it's even worse in the African country. And like the last speaker said, I think in terms of being able to get governments on board, the regional, various regional bodies can actually be used as a platform for sensitization and advocacy in terms of bringing in more countries into signing into WAIGF agreement. And the reason is because of the fallout of COVID-19. It was very clear to us that a large population of people were actually not connected. They had no access to the internet. And therefore, they were largely excluded in a lot of things that was going on in terms of even information that was being communicated at the time. So, and not much has happened because COVID-19 also placed limitations, for networks to be able to expand their services to unserved and the underserved areas. So one of the propositions I have would be to see how UNESCO can also at the level of United Nations and some of these regional bodies make a presentation to heads of government to see how the importance of adopting WAIGF and the need to have a lot more people included. Digital inclusion is very, very important because of the impact of access to digital infrastructure to pulling people out of poverty. So there is need for at that level of UNESCO to the United Nations and also other regional bodies to see how heads of government can really embrace a very important protocol that ensures that no one is left behind. So I would think that this particular conference will probably, move the needle, move the needle in terms of the very next steps and things that we need to do. And one of the things, like I suggested, is for the regional bodies to have an organization like UNESCO, make presentations at regional meetings, where the advocacy for the issue of adoption of WAIGF is seriously advocated and therefore getting more countries involved in adopting the protocol. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the few minutes that I've been given. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, participant. I'm sorry we don't have more time again. I will have to let you ask question, but I'm sorry. In another time, you can send your question to us. We will respond to you by email. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Professor Kindu. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Madam Marisa from UNESCO. It will be a very great time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
to thank the organizers of the West African Internet Governance Forum for the opportunity and for the such rich cooperation we are having for years since the West African IGF was established. My name is Anya Gengo. I work as an associate program officer here in the IGF Secretariat. One of the probably biggest tasks for me relates to the work with the national, regional, sub-regional, and youth IGFs. And with that, I've been working, cooperating with the West African Internet Governance Forum for years. Many of the colleagues are very close to me. I even had a pleasure to participate in person at the West African IGF in the Gambia. Was that, I think, in 2019? It was certainly one of the best meetings organized. Especially, I was so impressed at the time how you support the local community and the entrepreneurs from the region. And I remember the feeling was shared by so many stakeholders and experts that were participating, including the ITU Secretary General that we had a pleasure to see as well and hear from there in Banjul. So with that, let me tell you what the session is about and how are we going to manage this session. As you know, the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum, every year is hosted by different government in terms of its annual meeting. And the activities in between the two annual meetings are also changing from time to time, from year to year, depending on the decision of the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. And we are so fortunate that this year the IGF finally, after a decade, is going back to the African region. The 17th annual edition of the Internet Governance Forum will be hosted by the government of Ethiopia in Addis Ababa from 28th of November until 2nd of December 2022. And on our journey for preparing to meet in Ethiopia, hopefully all of you, later in the year, we are very much busy with many program activities which are focused, among other things, on building capacity in internet governance, on bringing understanding and raising awareness of the most pressing issues on internet governance, globally speaking. And we're very much concerned when it comes about achieving full inclusion in the meeting. It's a robust, challenging task that's in between all of us. And I know that we can certainly learn a lot from the West African IGF community. And that's the main reason why we are convening this dialogue today. We would like to explain to you the current state of affairs, where we are in terms of the preparations for the IGF in Ethiopia to be hosted later in the year. We're also going to present hopefully some motivating reasons, but also we're going to show you how you can engage in internet governance, why you should engage, what are the stakes on the side of every individual, but also every organization, regardless of the stakeholder group. And finally, we are going to devote most of this workshop to open dialogue with you. We would like to hear from you. What do you need from the IGF? It's a good timing for you to communicate your demand and for us hopefully to respond to that demand positively and ensure that a positive action takes place in order for us to meet the requirements of our communities around the world. We're a very diverse region, so you can certainly speak from different aspects. We would like to especially encourage you to speak from the aspect of an individual, of a user of the internet, but also of a person that probably works in a particular entity, a particular organization, uses the internet. What are the challenges that you face? We would also like you to speak from the perspective of cooperation, of engagement with others. We would like you to speak from the perspective of your geographic location, which is very important. As I said, geographically speaking, you're a very diverse region as well. I know the digital divide is very much present there, but I also know, and I've seen that when I landed in Senegal, in Kabul, in the Gambia, is that digital transformation footprint is so visible there. And I think that's especially where we can learn a lot from you. How do you benefit from access to the internet and all digital technologies? So with that, if there are no more questions, give me maybe a couple of minutes. I would like to present to you just very briefly where we are with the IGF. If there are some newcomers to the overall concept of the Internet Governance Forum, especially if you haven't been physically or online participated in any of the IGFs or its intersectional work, I will just put a little bit of emphasis also on what the concept is about, just in case there are questions of that nature coming on the minds of some of you. So allow me to share a couple of slides with you. Just a second. So hopefully you can see the slides. I am not going to go into all these slides with you. I'm happy to share this presentation with you later after this meeting, but I would like to speak a little bit at the beginning about the origins of the IGF, how everything started. And I'm sure many of you will recall that everything started many years back, and it really started from people. At that time, the World Summit on the Information Society was happening. There were two phases, especially phase one in 2003 and second phase in 2005, when all stakeholders requested the United Nations Secretary General to establish a multi-stakeholder working group on internet governance to primarily describe and, ideally define what internet governance is. And finally, when the WGIG managed to do that, the second phase of the VISIS went a step further and asked really of the Secretary General to convene the Internet Governance Forum as per the Tunis agenda for the Information Society, who basically gave birth and life to the IGF. What's I think very important to understand is that while the Internet Governance Forum exists within the United Nations framework convened by the United Nations Secretary General at the time, which was from your region, at that time it was Mr. Kofi Annan, the IGF existing under the roof of a traditional multilateral framework is actually everything but not just multilateral. It's multi-stakeholder. And that's, I think, the beauty of the IGF, that it allows everyone coming from all disciplines, all stakeholder groups, to speak as equals on internet governance, particular issues that they find as a priority. After the first IGF taking place in Athens, in Greece, in 2006, we came a long way. And now we are basically hosting, as I said, our 17th edition of the Internet Governance Forum annual meeting, but also the Intersectional Work, which altogether is basically an IGF process. Structurally speaking, I mentioned at the beginning, the IGF is facilitated by a neutral facilitator, by a guardian of all its principles and procedures, which is the IGF Secretariat based here in Geneva. At the heart of the IGF, in terms of the program, the substance that's every year being put together, building on the community's input and demand, is the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. Until last year, the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group was chaired by Andrea Esterhuisen. She is from the region, from South Africa, I'm sure a well-known name to everyone. And as of this year, the MAG is chaired by Mr. Paul Mitchell, the very first chair coming from the private sector, former Microsoft employee. The IGF Leadership Panel is a new addition to the structure of the IGF, and I'm going to tackle it a little bit later when I speak about the current UN processes that are underway and I think of relevance to all of you. As you can see, different governments hosted different IGFs. They were all really rich in its substance, discussion, and participation. And here you can see some of the examples from the past couple of the IGF. In general, what you can expect at the IGF is, last year we marked over 10,000 participants online and on-site speaking when we met in Poland. The IGF Village, which always welcomes organizations from different parts of the world. So it's always exciting to really walk that area and see what others are doing on internet governance. I know that from experience of my own, but also of other participants that were sharing, is that walk always results in some partnerships, in some cooperation, or at least in some knowledge sharing and ideas sharing. 300 session usually spans 5 days of the IGF, and this is basically what you can see how one cycle happens at the IGF, or in other words, what keeps busy the IGF Secretariat and the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group during the year, but I'm gonna dare to say also the community as well. And where I would like to put the emphasis on, and what I would like to discuss today with you as well, is the intersectional work. In case you are interested to learn more about particular issues on internet governance, and in case you have something to say, or to add, or to raise awareness, or to alarm the community, draw the attention of the community on something that you think is important, then intersectional work is always a good opportunity to do so. In short, the intersectional work is the work happening in between the 2 annual meetings. It's focused on particular issues and areas on internet governance, which the MAG, building on the input from the community, sees as a priority for that particular time period of 1 IGF annual cycle. This year, we are having particularly rich intersectional work in terms of the format, in terms of the opportunities for engagement with peers, with other networks, but also in terms of the topics. In that sense, we have 2 best practice forums on cybersecurity and on gender and digital rights. They are basically working with the community, with stakeholders from all disciplines, all regions, all countries, of all ages, all backgrounds, on understanding what are the cybersecurity existing agreements, what the norms are regulating, if they're regulating anything, what are the policies we have and what are the policies we don't have. It's always interesting to see, especially the local specificities. And in that sense, the importance of the NRIs is critically important, because thanks to you, we are understanding what exists in your countries, in your regions, but also what does not exist. And then if you connect with others, then you can learn about the existing good practices, or maybe even mistakes that others make, so that you avoid that in creating a good policy framework for your own countries and regions to guarantee you safe and inclusive open internet. The Gender and Digital Right, likewise, platform for resource persons. Yes, indeed, it's an online open database, basically, of experts in internet governance. It's open to everyone, so you can go to the IGF website, create your resource person profile, publish it, and make sure that you are on the radar of the global community when they search for an expert on a particular topic from a particular region or particular specific expertise that they have, that they need. I'm happy to also share the link maybe with you in the chat in the next couple of minutes. But while I'm doing that, I would like to see if there are additional questions about the IGF. And my question for you, if somebody could comment, that would be excellent. One of the engagement strategies we are having for this year, focusing on the African region primarily, relates to getting connected better with young people. And certainly that's very relevant for you as the youngest continent of all. And then also getting engaged with legislators, with parliamentarians. And for these 2, we are having 2 special tracks, which are organized. The youth track is organized in cooperation with all youth IGF coordinators. That includes the West African youth IGF coordinators, such as Joshua, but also other colleagues from the region. For example, Afi is one of. And we are very fortunate to have that such, I think, strong cooperative network of young people from all over the world to tell us how can we engage young people better. And in that sense, my question to you is, how do we engage young people better? What do you need, and what did you observe that youth needs in your communities? While you are preparing maybe to take the floor, I just wanted to point out another engagement forum that we are working on relates to parliamentarians, the legislators. We are having a parliamentary track that is going to be implemented throughout the year until we are in Ethiopia. And at the upcoming African IGF in Malawi in July, we are going to have the parliamentary symposium, where parliamentarians from many of the African countries, but also outside of the region, would meet to discuss the most pressing matters related to legislation or regulation of the internet. And so my question for you also goes in that sense: how do we ensure that everyone is part of our processes? Which particular communities do you find are most marginalized? And what concretely the IGF could do to engage them meaningfully? I'll maybe give a couple of seconds to see if anyone would like to comment on this or intervene in this sense, including from the room. But as I said, I can't see the room, so I'm gonna need your help to be my eyes in the room. Oh, I see the room now. Thank you very much for sharing with me. So that's the question for you. Is there something from everything that I've said now and presented, is there something that you think is missing? And if so, what do you think is missing in terms of getting everyone on board and making sure that everyone is included in the IGF processes and that everyone participates in the IGF later in the year in Ethiopia? Please be free to raise your hands or comment in the chat, or I don't know, probably there's a microphone in the room as well, so maybe you would like to take the floor. I would be very happy to hear from you. Liad is saying in the chat, observing or protocol. Liad, would you mind elaborating a little bit on that? It's a very interesting comment. I don't think we have any comments anymore. If there are no raised hands or requests for the floor, then I would like maybe to wrap up this particular presentation and dialogue with you, with inviting you to be part of the IGF's intersectional work that is underway, and you can find all the links on the IGF website. I'll post the website link quickly in the chat. Also, you are most welcome to contact the IGF Secretariat. I would be happy to connect with all of you and explain better ways of engagement. Best maybe to connect is through the West African IGF, so through the coordinators. Mary is a dear friend of our house, and maybe through Mary or Joshua or Afi and other colleagues which are active in the West African IGF, which we work with very closely. Before we wrap up, I see that Lyle is saying the need for more engagement platform like these will definitely be needed. Well, I'm very glad to hear if this was something that's been useful. I certainly wish that I could hear more from you, but I also do understand that you are maybe more comfortable in a listening role. But with that, if there are no more questions from you, then I sincerely would like to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure for me to be part of the West African IGF, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the discussions. Thank you very much to the organizers, and I wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the technicians.